Is high intensity living affecting your chronic pain and symptoms? Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone had a good week. I hope everyone's healing work is progressing forward. I'm wishing you all well in terms of that. And so today I want to talk about a topic that's actually really dear to my heart. It was a huge part of my healing. And this is high intensity living. Now you may be asking, what is high intensity living? This is when we are constantly on the move. We are constantly on high alert. For myself, when I think about right when my chronic pain started to occur, what was taking place in my life is I was working 12, 14 hours a day in school, plus working while I was taking university. I was so perfectionistic. I was always busy. I was never taking a rest. And it was intense. When I say high intensity living, I mean intense. I can be a really intense person. If you ask any of my friends or my partner, Anne, she'll let you know that I can be an intense person. And I needed to change that to recover from chronic pain and to maintain my recovery from neuroplastic pain. And so when we talk about high intensity living, the first step is awareness, because I was so used to it. I was so used to every minute of my day being planned and every minute of my day being set aside to just be excessively productive. I had lived that way for a couple of years. And even when I was in junior high or high school, it started to take place as well. Now for myself, I have a history of substance use that I've recovered from, and I've achieved sobriety for many, many years. But that was also high intensity living, just in a different way. I was constantly using drugs or alcohol, and my life had degraded in a great form. But after I recovered, I went to long-term drug treatment. After I recovered, my perfectionism just took off. I was always trying to perform at my very best. And just really, it sounds shallow, but I was trying to be the very best at what I did. I was always comparing myself to others. And because of that, I never got to rest. My brain and nervous system was just constantly in this sympathetic fight or flight mode. Now, I always think about, movies. When we think about the states of the nervous system, I always think about what movies represent the states of the nervous system. And the one that really shines for me that I talk about quite a bit is Wolf of Wall Street. Now, if you go and watch that movie, the main character, he is always in sympathetic mode. It's intense. Everything is high pressure, always on high alert, incredibly angry or anxious. And it really defines what I kind of looked like right before my chronic pain started, minus the millions of dollars. I don't have millions of dollars like the character in the movie, but my lifestyle was functioning in a very similar way. And so that needed to shift. And the first thing was awareness, as I said, because a lot of times we're not aware of this. We're not aware of how intense we can be and how that's coming off. Other people might be very aware, but we're not aware. And so I needed to be really aware that that's what was taking place and that there was a connection with my pain. When I'm working with people who have chronic pain or symptoms, this is something I'm asking about right away. Oh my goodness. Harry's jumped up. Harry's hanging out. Oh, came to say hi. When I'm working with people, this is one of the things that I ask about right away is, how intense is your life? How intensely are you living? And are you willing to change that? Because some people, and I'm not here to judge, everyone can make their own choices. Some people are not willing to change that about themselves. And that's okay too. It's going to be harder to recover, but we need to bring awareness that that's happening and then have a willingness to actually start to make shifts. And I think the fear for a lot of perfectionists is if they aren't intense, they won't be successful. And I get that fear. That fear hit home for me really deeply while I was trying to heal. But a big part of my journey was learning to lower the intensity level. So when we talk about lowering the intensity level, lowering the pressure we put on ourselves, that can sound a little abstract. And there's a lot of simple shifts you can start to make to change that. So the first thing that I recommend to people, it's the simplest thing I talk about on this channel. It is something that can help greatly with chronic pain and symptoms, is slowing down. Actually putting less into your day and slowing down your life. So today, it's Friday. I don't meet with clients on Fridays. You're probably watching this video on a different day, but it's Friday when I'm recording it. And on Fridays, I take time. I'm not excessively working. I work slowly, I work efficiently, but I'm valuing downtime and actually making sure I'm spacing things out. Because that way my nervous system isn't chronically on high alert. And if you want to talk about reducing the pressure, some people ask me a lot, like, how do I do that? Part of the way that you do that is you actually do less. And it doesn't need to be excessively less, but even start with like 5%. Can I slow down my life, the way I move about my day, the activities that I do? Can I slow that down by 5%? Because that can go a long way in actually helping us heal. Now, another thing that I talk about is learning to cultivate ease or lightness in your life. And I use the word cultivate very intentionally. You're not just going to feel light and at ease all of a sudden. For myself, my nervous system was on high alert for so long that it really couldn't handle many feelings of ease. It couldn't even handle slowing down that much at first. It was too much of a shock to the system. But it's small things. Like when I go grocery shopping, I go really slow. That's how I'm cultivating ease. I don't set a timer. I'm not pressed for time while I'm doing it. I just move around the grocery store, slowly get my things, pay without rushing. When I get home even, I bring one grocery bag in at a time. And to be honest, that used to really irritate me trying to do that, but my system's gotten used to that. You need to get your nervous system used to feelings of ease and lightness, and this is one way you can do this. Another way, when we talk about daily living, is the amount of pressure you're putting on activities in your day. So could you do a fourth of the activities you have planned, a fourth of the tasks at work or home, with only giving it 70% effort? It sounds really simplistic, but it can go a long way in actually cultivating feelings of ease and lightness. There's activities that are in my day that are they're important, but they're not that important. And I only give it 70, sometimes even 60% effort towards them. So I do them in this nonchalant way. And that takes practice at first, starting to cultivate that. But it can really be helpful to actually slowing down your system and lowering the intensity level. Now, another thing I talk about with people is our thoughts. A lot of times when we are on high alert so much, our thoughts follow suit. So whether it's fear thoughts, obsessive thinking, preoccupation, catastrophizing, I'm used to all of these. I've had to do a lot of work on shifting that. Now, some of that happens by regulating the nervous system, and I have lots of videos on my channel that can support you in doing that. But some of that work actually really comes down to starting to change your thought patterns. So I'll give you an example that happened yesterday. Yesterday, I got a voicemail on our business line, and it was the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency. So anyone who isn't from Canada, this is like the United States, their IRS. So it's like the tax authority from the government. And it was saying that I had messed something up on my taxes. and that it was urgent and that I needed to call them right away. And so when that happened, I had a burst of adrenaline. I was like, oh my goodness, what has happened? And my brain snapped in to being preoccupied, to having these excessive fear thoughts about what I was going to have to do. Was I going to have to pay all this money? Was this like a really complicated thing? This is where my brain went. And maybe you relate. Maybe your brain goes there really easily. And I didn't really have much information. It was like a 30-second voicemail. And so I called my accountant. And what I did in the meantime was I did some slow breathing, I slowed it down, and I challenged some of my thinking. And I gave messages of safety. I reminded myself, hey, we don't know if this is a catastrophe yet. We have a very small amount of information. And the other times when the CRA called, it all worked out okay. So I have experience in this area that it was actually fine. You freaked out, you panicked about it last time, but it was actually okay. And so all that worrying and obsessive thinking was for nothing in the long run. And all I did is I did the actionable things that I needed to. I called my accountant, I called the CRA back and left a message. And outside of that, it was no longer useful for me to be fearful about that. And then I shifted to my body. Because a big thing, if you want to change your fear thoughts or obsessive thinking or intensive thinking, is you need to practice shifting from mind to body and learning to attend there. And I noticed a lot of fear in my body. And with all the techniques I talk about on this channel, I attended to it. I cared for it. I brought myself compassion and kindness for feeling this way. And I let that wave of emotion play out. And after that happened, I got home later that night. My accountant called me back. I'll finish the story here. My accountant called me back and he was like, oh yeah, I dealt with it. It was nothing. It was just like a mistake on a form. I didn't have to pay anything. There was no urgency involved. I feel like every time the CRA call you, if you're from Canada, it's urgent. They're like, oh my goodness, this is urgent. You need to call us back right away. It was nothing. It was just like a duplicated form. And so it taught me something. All these small moments where I chose to not go down the fear path. I chose to not go down the obsessive thinking path. And by doing that, I actually cultivated feelings of ease in my body. I attended to my internal state, and the fear thoughts and the fear actually faded out. Now, I've had a lot of practice doing this over a number of years, but I have lots of videos on this channel in terms of dealing with preoccupation or fear thoughts. But a big way of doing that is to lower your intensity level. And I did that by challenging and changing my thoughts, but then also shifting to the body and being very nervous system focused on my emotions, my autonomic state, and I calmed it. And by doing that, the thoughts faded off. So this is my video on high intensity living and how it can actually change your pain. And I think it's important for people to make that connection. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's important you make the connection that there is a big connection here. And by actually changing the way we go about our day and about our life, it can have a real impact on neuroplastic pain and mind-body concerns. So please put your questions or comments down below, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you all next week. Take care.